So it's all in the details. Yesterday here in St. Augustine, we took the trolley tour and it gave us an overall view of everything we wanted to see. So now we're going back to look at the details of the things we missed.
Yeah. Here we go. Yeah.
Wow. Hey everybody, I'm Bill.
And I'm Elizabeth. Live simple.
Live free. And we are here in St. Augustine, Florida, and it's an absolutely wonderful place. Absolutely wonderful weather. As you can see the sky, not a cloud in the sky. And
I'm right by the water, the
yeah,
ocean.
there's the water right there. And yesterday we took the trolley tour around town and saw so much. It was so much fun. If you haven't seen that, go look at the video that we just did, the last video.
Now you may probably already know this, but St. Augustine is hands down the oldest settled town in all of America.
Right, settled in 1565.
Yeah, yeah.
So several of the things that we identified that we wanted to see, we didn't have time yesterday. One of them is this fort back here, which we're going to check out, and then we're going to go see the what?
The Fountain of Youth.
Yep.
It's a whole area that's all like actual archaeological sites and stuff, but it's you know, with Ponce de Leon and the Fountain of Youth, it looks like quite a deal.
Yep.
Yep.
So this is the old Spanish fort that was built here by Spain to protect St. Augustine against the British. And I'm interested in going in to see this, and we got here and we discovered that it's a $15 ticket for each person to get in. And you know, we should have realized that. I mean, St. Augustine is a beautiful place, but you do pay for every attraction that you go into. So, you know, we don't have bottomless pockets, so we decided not to go inside of this one, but you can see it from the outside. But you know, when we went by here the other day on the tour guide gave me a lot of information about the history of this fort. That was pretty fascinating. So this is actually the 10th fort that was built on this same site. And the first 9 were all built out of wood, and the first 9 all burned to the ground during different battles. And so finally the King of Spain said, enough of that, let's build a stone one. So they built this stone one, which remains to this day. Now I'm talking late 1500s that all of this happened. So this has been here for quite a while. An interesting thing is that, you know, when a fort is under siege, one of the big problems that it has is that if the siege lasts very long, it can run out of cannonballs. When they built this fort, I don't know the kind of stone they built it out of, but it's very soft. And when a cannonball from a ship hits the wall, instead of shattering the wall just absorbs it. It just sticks into the side of the wall and sticks there and doesn't do any damage. But what's really cool then is that at night, the people inside the fort would come out and take those cannonballs out of the side of the wall and fire them back at the ships again. So how ironic is it for a ship to fire a ball at a fort, and then the next day for the ship to be sunk by its own cannonball? I just thought that was really cool. I've never heard of anything quite like that before. And there are places here in the side of the wall where you can see that it's kind of like white stucco, where they have filled in some of the holes where the cannonballs used to be with concrete to reinforce it. So this is a very sheltered bay right here, and those are barrier islands out there. This one over here, that's Villano Beach. Right out there, that's where you can see the Atlantic Ocean, and then over here is Anastasia Island. Lots of sailboats in here. How you doing, dear one?
Oh, I'm great.
Enjoying the water?
Yes, just enjoying the air and the water, and it's beautiful. Breathing is a sheer delight. We're going down to a little place. Well, in Germany they call them Fußgängerzones. But anyway, it's just a place where it's only pedestrians and little shops and stuff. So look at the cobblestone. I mean, it's like wavy and old and wonderful. Well, we found it, and this is so charming. Love it.
This is a coffee shop right here. I don't know if you can see it because of the lighting, but it's an ancient, antique, old building with a coffee shop in it. And then after you get your coffee, you can come over here to this delightful little place to sit down and drink your coffee. How cool is that?
Love that. That reminds me of Germany.
Yeah.
Just the overhang with all of the petunias, hanging down. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. Peaceful in here. Oh my goodness, it's peaceful.
Now, right at the end of this pedestrian street is this, which is the old original gate for the town of St. Augustine. And when they close these gates at night, they would not let you in. If you weren't inside by the time they closed the gates, you spent the night outside in the ground.
Yeah, and the tour guide was saying you spent the night out with the alligators and the other critters. He said people never did it more than once. When we were on the tour, they talked about this little graveyard here. And apparently in 1821, there was a yellow fever epidemic. And they had so many people die that they buried like 20 people in every grave. And then the person on the top, the last one there, was the only one that they kept the name of, the only one that they recorded the grave as.
On the gravestone.
On the gravestone, yeah. So there'd be like 20 people buried, but the person that was in there last would be on the gravestone. Wow.
So we have not been inside yet, but apparently this archaeological park is fairly substantial. And it shows here 3000 BC, site of the first native town of Seloi. 1513, legendary site of Juan Ponce de Leon's historic landing. 1565, site of the Pedro Menendez first settlement, site of the first muster of the militia in the United States, site of the first documented Thanksgiving feast between Europeans and Native Americans. In 1587, site of Nombre de Dios, the first Christian mission church in the United States. And they've got a planetarium, cannon firing demonstration. It just looks very interesting. First mission church. We'll see. Ponce de Leon.
I can't wait to see these people go back in time in front of our eyes and it's like, sit there.
I got some joints that would sure be happy. This is the actual Fountain of Youth.
Here you go, dear.
Okay, now if you get too young.
That's why I only took half a glass. Inside the planetarium before the show starts.
I'm gonna turn my phone off.
I'm not allowed to record during the show, of course. So we just finished the planetarium show.
Yes.
And that was pretty cool because I've always liked planetariums anyway. But this showed specifically how they use the stars to navigate to be able to find their way. And it was pretty interesting. I've never quite seen a presentation like that before.
Yeah.
It was like, what, a 15-minute presentation or something?
Yeah.
It's pretty cool. Now we're going over to something called the Discovery Globe.
We'll see.
I don't know.
Now this was fascinating. I'm sorry I can't remember the name of the man who developed this, but it was actually built in the 1960s, and he had the idea of what he wanted to do, but there was not the technology at the time to do that. This is not an electronic thing. This is an actual physical globe that's 24 feet tall. You can see the heads of the people down below where they're watching it. You walk into this auditorium and sit down, and then the curtains open, and here's this huge 24-foot tall globe. And it's absolutely fascinating to see the 1960s technology that's still pretty impressive. And like I said, it did not exist. The technology did not exist, and he figured out how to do it. And then Disney actually came to him to learn how he had done this in order to develop a lot of their own original things in Disney World. So it was just fascinating and beautifully done.
Millions of black light have the feeling of seeing the Earth from a great distance. A multicolored planet, radiating its own subdued brilliance as it slowly rotates in the darkness of outer space. This globe portrays the epical events in the discovery, exploration, and colonization by Spaniards in the Western Hemisphere during the 16th century. By means of controlled lights, I now call your attention to the course sailed by Columbus in 1492, when he landed on San Salvador and went on to discover other islands. The second voyage of great importance was that of Columbus in 1493, when he was accompanied by Juan Ponce de Leon. The landing was made on Hispaniola. From this island, Ponce de Leon went on to the island of Puerto Rico to found a settlement and become governor of the island. Another famous voyage in American history was that of Ponce de Leon in 1513, when he anchored his 3 ships within sight of President St. Augustine.
So what did you think of the Discovery Globe?
That was actually, I mean, it was beautiful. And I love that it was real. I mean, it was like all mechanical. It was gorgeous.
For 1960s technology, it would have blown people away at the time.
Oh, my
And
goodness.
even now, how many years later, it's still beautifully done.
Yeah, it's pretty staggering. Also, we were just talking about how that a regular map flattens the Earth out, and the Earth's actually round. And so by looking at it on the globe, you really see the actual sizes of things.
Yeah.
It was fascinating.
So this actually showed the routes taken by all of the different explorers as Christopher Columbus and Ponce de Leon.
Ponce de Leon.
There you go. And not only the discovery of Florida, Ponce de Leon named the entire continent of North America the continent of Florida.
Yeah, they put the name all the way across it, clear up into like Labrador,
Yeah.
and all the way across the country was Florida.
But then it showed further than that the exploration of all of the islands and the discovery of the Pacific Ocean, I guess, by crossing Panama.
That was
And
Balboa, I think.
and then the exploration of the west coast of both North and South America. It's just, if you're into history, this is the place to be.
it was so cool.
Yeah, really neat.
And just the amount of space people had to cover. It's just massive. When it's a 2-story tall globe,
Yeah.
you get a little better idea of the amount of actual distance you're talking about.
Right.
Oh my goodness.
Imagine the work that went into building this dugout canoe. This is apparently the actual site of this Indian village that was here forever, before Ponce de Leon arrived. So everywhere you go down here, there are people around to talk about the history of what you're looking at. And they just overwhelm you with the amount of history. I can't even begin to tell you, but I can just give you a couple of highlights. This hut right here is a family hut, and this was big enough to house 3 generations. And typically a village would have one of these built very large that could house as many as 2,000 soldiers inside of there. And then it would be clustered around it with these family huts where each individual family was there. These huts were built basically to protect them from wild animals at night and from the weather. And speaking of weather, these are round. He said square buildings were not seen in Florida or anywhere in the New World until the Europeans brought them. This can withstand high winds, and everything around here was built round like this. And he said this particular hut right here, of course this is just a replica, but this particular hut right here and that one over there have both sustained or survived through 2 Category 2 hurricanes and 1 Category 3 hurricane, and they're still standing. Isn't that amazing? All of our square buildings that we think are strongly built, they blow right over, the roofs pull off, and this withstands a Category 3 hurricane just because of the design and the round shape. That's amazing.
Now, when Pedro Menendez arrived here in the year 1565, he brought along with him 6 blacksmiths to build this column. By that again, taking a round stick of metal and I'm making it square. Now, squares are better when you're blacksmithing because you can hit 2 sides at once. If it's round, watch this hand here, I'd have to go tap, 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 tap. My hand doesn't work that way, or I got a loose grip on metal that's 2,000 degrees, neither one of those is a good idea. But since I can hit 2 sides at once, I can go these 2 sides, and then back. 2 sides, 2 sides. Coal under Florida, and
there's the nail he just made.
Iron under Florida. Fortunately, the first thing I do is I bring it down to a point, at least in that case, or I bring it down to a chisel, depending on what we're looking at here. But either way, it's a thin piece of metal.
Now these frame buildings right here are actually built right on where archaeologists say the original Spanish buildings were. They just put kind of frames up to let us know where that was. And the water is right over there. So I'm here in this little ancient Indian village and the site of the first actual Spanish colony. Now that cross right there is the site where they actually landed for the first time, and that's where they had the first Catholic Mass on North American soil.
This is the type of firearm a lot of Pedro Menendez's soldiers had when he arrives on our site in September of 1565. Now, smoothbore means there's no rifling inside her barrel. Therefore, she is only accurate up to about 45, 50 yards. Now, don't get me wrong, the ball will travel farther than that. You can punch a hole to an individual over 100 yards away. Now, it's a volley fire weapon. When these weapons were initially designed in Europe, they were... Now, for the purposes of the demonstration, we're only using around 80 grains of a 2F black powder. If I was actually going to put a ball down range, we'd be using about 130 grains. Now, next step's going to be wadding. Wadding in Europe at the time is a prefabricated felt plug dipped in olive oil. Guess what I don't have? A prefabricated felt plug dipped in olive oil. So for wadding here, what we're going to use is a plug of Spanish moss. Got plenty of that. All right, next step, we would put the ball in on the top. Now, everything is going to get rammed to the breech of the weapon. Now, the wadding's role in this, guys, is simple. Keeps everything together. It keeps the powder exactly where you need it, and then that ball's going to jam up on top of it nice and tight. So say, for example, you're running with the weapon. Everything's going to stay in place. Now, all right, matches are set, covers are open. Fuego!
That's cool! That's actually cool!
Alright guys, settle up.
they were saying that when the Indians lived here, when the tide went out, there would be fish trapped in these pools, and they would just go out and very easily just harvest all of the fish out of the tidal pools, just like those birds are doing right now. This is the original Mission Church.
This is pretty neat in here. Wow.
Even has a balcony up there.
Yeah. With a thatched roof.
Yep, thatched roof. So this is now the next morning.
Yes.
We got home last night, back to the room, and we were exhausted.
Yes.
So we need to wrap up this video for you, and we went outside today to do something in the nice, Florida palm trees behind us, and the wind is blowing so bad it wouldn't record. So here we are in our room.
We're still giving you the palm.
With a palm tree.
Yeah, we're still giving you the palm tree.
So we've been here in St. Augustine for a few days now, and it's an absolutely amazing city, and we absolutely loved the Fountain of Youth Archaeological Park.
Yes.
And I've been at other places that have had things like that, and blacksmith shops and frontier things, but they were all, the history there was all around the 1800s or something like that, late 1700s. This one, the history there is 200 to 300 years older.
Yeah, it's like the 1500s.
The late 1500s, yeah. So,
and it's the real place. I mean,
yeah.
It's not the same exact real buildings, but I mean, it's the actual place, and they're talking about stuff in the 1500s.
Right. So we just thoroughly enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And is well worth the trip to go there if you're in St. Augustine. And, there are many beautiful places here in Florida, and we've seen many of them.
Yeah.
But I think St. Augustine is probably one of the most beautifulest.
Well, just the city itself.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And the history here is amazing.
Yeah.
And it feels a lot more like Europe than anything else we've seen.
Well, walking down that little street yesterday, and
we know because we lived in Germany for 3 years. So, yeah. So, actually, we're just taking the day off today, relaxing and
getting stuff
around the hotel,
getting relaxed stuff done,
and recovering because tomorrow morning we're leaving to go back home again.
Yeah, it's time to go home.
And of course, by the time you see this, we will have been home for several weeks.
Yeah, it's just how it always works.
Yeah, but we have thoroughly enjoyed our time here.
Yeah.
So, anything else to say?
Well, I tell you what, I have wanted to go to Florence for so long because I wanted to see that statue by Michelangelo. So I got to admit, that was a real serendipity, a very neat, unexpected thing.
Right.
I loved it.
Right.
Alrighty.
So I hope you've enjoyed going along with us on our trip, and thanks for watching.
Live simple.
Live free. You be blessed.
We'll see you guys soon.
All right.
Thanks for coming along. We love you. We'll see you soon.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.